Well, they've been doing a whole lot of restocking across Australia with sheep and cattle. We've been talking about that regularly on the Country Viewpoint program on Fridays. This huge restock that's going on, incredible prices for cattle in particular, and pretty good prices for sheep as well. But that could all be undermined by poor biosecurity. So we will be seeing what the federal government and the opposition have to say about this outbreak and what we might need to do to ramp up our protection for farmers.
On the Flow Morning Show, great to have you as we do each day. Take a look at a key issue with the election around the corner. One of the issues that we're focusing on is agriculture. Rikki Lambert's with me. And Rikki, this question of reaching this target by 2030 of $100 billion, you were able to speak to the Minister, Mr Littleproud, and he had interesting commentary surrounding that.
Yes, fresh out of his feedback at the pub, passing the pub test at Keith. He's given us a bit of insight, because I asked him this question in the chat in the car with Jonathan Peach, the SA candidate for Barker for the Nationals. We were talking about, are we at risk of just coasting to this 100 billion target? Not because farmers are just cruising, but because the prices are so good at the moment because of global shortages that we could easily just get there. Now, the minister in this little excerpt from that interview, you can hear the full thing on the FlowNews24 podcast right now, he has said, well, actually, we're doing the underlying work to make sure we're not coasting to that target.
No, I've got to say, obviously it has been pushed, and you make a very good point about higher prices have actually pushed us, and we'll probably hit above 81 billion by June because of those prices. But we're investing between farmers and the Australian taxpayer $1.1 billion a year in research and development and technology for Australian agriculture. This is shifting the dial, and you've got to understand. You put it into context. In 2014-15, we were producing about $47 billion worth of agricultural production, and we were in the middle of a drought then, and we were only just getting out of a drought in many parts of Australia, particularly my part in Western Queensland. And then we've had all these other challenges, or whether that be cyclones or floods. And we've been able to produce $81 billion because our farmers adopted new technology and science. And that's the exciting thing, is they're shifting the dial themselves because they need to make a quid. And they're understanding that the climate's changing. How do they actually adjust? Well, they need new tools, and that's why they're investing in partnership with the Australian taxpayer with that $1.1 billion to give them new varieties of grain, new genes in terms of livestock that give greater productivity. So these are the sort of smart things that farmers have always done.
So he makes some good comments there. We were at around 66, now we're at 81 billion. We could go well beyond that 100 billion target if some of the measures that have been put in place do occur. But there are some risk factors to that not occurring. And I talk about the foot and mouth disease issue in Indonesia. And the New South Wales farmers have made strong commentary that they don't believe that the federal government or the opposition, and in this case both Labor and the Coalition, have presented policies to actually put something in place in biosecurity terms to stop that, and that would then be an alleviation of $60 billion of loss in the industry.
Well, that conversation I had with David Littleproud was before this outbreak hit the headlines in Indonesia. I think the Coalition would bristle at the suggestion they haven't done enough on biosecurity. They do, from David Littleproud, the Agriculture Minister, push out a lot about what they're doing on biosecurity. But you mentioned Labor, Wayne. Labor, the minister, has criticised for being a policy-free zone when it comes to agriculture. I have to say he's correct. Julie Collins is the shadow agriculture minister. I haven't seen an ag policy from them. Indeed, in the South Australian state election, didn't see an agriculture policy from the primary industries minister there either. Labor is not even making candidates available for interview in regional Australia in the areas we cover. It's very concerning that all Labor's said in the ag space is, well, we're going to restrict the agricultural visa.
Yeah, restrict the visa and stop live sheep exports out of Western Australia. It's a really interesting time. We had the Agriculture Minister at a feedlot down in Tintinara, which is run by the TFI International, Thomas Foods, and they were speaking up the benefits of beef cattle and how we are growing that sector. But the real risk, I think, still is foot and mouth disease, and being that it's on our doorstep, that's a key question that needs to be answered in this election campaign.
Well, they've been doing a whole lot of restocking across Australia with sheep and cattle. We've been talking about that regularly on the Country Viewpoint program on Fridays. This huge restock that's going on, incredible prices for cattle in particular, and pretty good prices for sheep as well. But that could all be undermined by poor biosecurity. So we will be seeing what the federal government and the opposition have to say about this outbreak and what we might need to do to ramp up our protection for farmers.
All right, it's a very good question that we're putting, and a very interesting interview with the Agriculture Minister, David Littleproud.